You know, I met a man once who told me he'd spent almost 40 years working at the same company. 40 years. And when I asked him how things were going, he gave me this tired little smile and said, well, it's the same as it's always been. The economy's not great. My boss doesn't really appreciate what I do. The young guys keep getting the promotions, and I just don't get the breaks other people get. And I looked at him, and for a moment, I didn't know what to say, because here was a man who had dedicated 4 decades of his life, not to growth, not to purpose, not to passion, but to survival. He showed up every day, did his work, paid his bills, raised his family, and somewhere along the way, he forgot to raise himself. He spent his best years blaming everything and everyone, except the one person who could have actually changed his situation, himself. And it hit me right there. That's how most people live their entire lives. They get caught in this quiet cycle of repetition, doing what they have to do, telling themselves that someday, somehow, things will just get better. But the truth is, nothing changes until you do. Let me tell you something that changed my life the moment I understood it. Most people spend more time planning their 2-week vacation than they do planning their life. Think about that for a second. They'll spend hours researching hotels, comparing prices, reading reviews, mapping out every little detail of their trip. But when it comes to their future, their goals, their dreams, their purpose, they just hope it all works out. They trust fate or luck or timing. And then they wonder why they wake up 10 years later, feeling lost, tired, and behind. You see, the tragedy isn't that people fail. The tragedy is that they drift. They drift through days, through years, through decades, without ever stopping to ask, where am I really going? They get busy being busy, but never truly productive for themselves. They pour their energy into companies that would replace them in a week, into friendships that stopped growing years ago, into habits that keep them stuck, and call it being responsible. But responsibility without reflection becomes a prison. And one day, you wake up and realize you've been so busy keeping up with life, you forgot to actually live it. Life doesn't respond to need. Life responds to deserve. And you don't deserve success just because you've struggled. You deserve it when you decide to take ownership of your story, when you stop waiting for permission and start creating direction. And maybe that's why this message found you today, because maybe deep down, you're tired of feeling like that man I met, tired of blaming the economy, your boss, your timing, your luck. Maybe you're finally ready to face the truth. It's not the world that needs to change. It's you, and the moment you choose to invest in yourself, the moment you stop drifting and start designing, everything begins to shift. Because you are the greatest project you will ever work on, and it's time to start building again. After meeting that man, I couldn't stop thinking maybe I'm on the same path. Maybe you are too. How many of us are walking through our days, our weeks, our months, doing what everyone expects, chasing what seems urgent, while quietly losing sight of what's truly important? Look, I know you felt it, that nagging sensation late at night, when everything else is quiet, when your thoughts finally find you. The thoughts you've been avoiding for years. What happened to my dreams? When did I start settling? Am I really living? Or am I just surviving? Can you feel it, that discomfort, that tiny alarm in your chest, quietly screaming, reminding you that something's been missing all this time? I've watched it happen over and over. Talented men and women, bright and capable, full of promise, sacrificing mornings, evenings, weekends, always waiting for the right time to start, always telling themselves, someday I'll get to it, and then a decade slips away. Can you see it? How quickly life passes, almost before you notice, and when they finally stop, they're left staring in a mirror they barely recognize, lines on their face, promises made to themselves and forgotten, ambitions shelved, dreams tucked away in drawers labeled maybe someday. Here's the hardest truth. You weren't just neglecting opportunities. You were neglecting yourself. Regret is quiet. It doesn't scream. It creeps into your thoughts like a shadow, dimly eroding your fire. It's not missing a promotion, a deal, or a chance. It's missing the chance to be the person you were meant to become. Right now, today, you have a choice. You can step in front of that mirror. You can face yourself honestly. Maybe you've ignored it for too long. Maybe you've been distracted by obligations, by fear, by comfort, by doubt. But today, you have a choice to stop blaming circumstances, to reclaim your time, to reignite the fire in your chest, because that fire is what will pull you out of regret and into action. Regret isn't the enemy. Inaction is, and the moment you face your reflection, honestly, you give yourself the first gift of true freedom. Neglect doesn't always announce itself. And most of us don't even notice it until it's too late. It doesn't storm in with alarms or flashing lights most of the time. It slips quietly into your life, like a thief in the night. Every day you postpone your dreams. You pay a price, and that price isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in moments you'll never get back. Think about it. The man who stayed in a job that no longer challenged him, watching younger colleagues soar past him, feeling the years slip through his fingers. The woman who poured all her energy into everyone else, while the passion in her heart quietly faded. The dreams they once held so tightly, now gathering dust beneath comfort, fear, and distraction. Here's what's dangerous. You get used to it. Neglect becomes normal. You convince yourself, I'm just being responsible. I'll catch up later. But later is a trap. Later has a funny way of turning into never, and that's the hidden cost. It's not just lost opportunities, it's lost confidence, lost energy, lost the sense of who you truly could have been. You feel it as exhaustion, as distraction, as frustration. You wonder why every day feels heavier than the last. And the world doesn't wait for you. Opportunities don't pause. People move on. Dreams that sit idle quietly die. So ask yourself, are you willing to keep paying that price? Or are you ready to reclaim what's yours? Investing in yourself isn't indulgent, it's urgent. Every small step toward focus, discipline, and growth pushes back against that slow theft of your time and potential every hour you dedicate to yourself. It's a shield against the cost of neglect. And here's the secret most people don't realize. The sooner you act, the faster the momentum builds. The sooner you commit to your own growth, the more everything else in life begins to respond. Neglect is silent, but action is loud. Maybe this is why you're watching right now. Maybe it's time you stop paying the price and start acting. Because the moment you choose to fight back, to focus on yourself, to invest in your own life, you begin to reclaim what's been quietly slipping away all these years. I met a man once who told me, I gave everything to everyone and forgot myself. That line hit me because that's what most people do. We give, we work, we sacrifice, and then one day the noise fades and the truth gets loud. That's the moment you realize you've spent years investing in everything except yourself. Your work, your family, your obligation, everyone and everything that needed you, but somewhere along the way, you forgot that you need you too. You wake up one day and realize you don't even recognize the person in the mirror. The fire's gone, the hunger faded, and that scares you. Because deep down, this isn't who you were meant to become. And that's what this message is about. It's time to focus. It's time to invest in the one person who's been there through every storm, every loss, every struggle. Here's what I've learned the hard way. No one is coming to save you, not your job, not the economy, not the people who promised they'd be there forever. If you want your life to change, you have to be the one who changes it. And you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't keep giving when you've got nothing left inside yet. That's what most people do. They drain themselves dry trying to meet expectations while silently neglecting their own soul. The truth is, the world doesn't pay you for how much you sacrifice. It rewards you for how much you grow. And growth only comes when you decide to make yourself the priority again. So, let me ask you this. When did you stop believing you deserved more? When was the last time you set a goal not for your boss, not for approval, but for you? When was the last time you woke up early not because you had to, but because you wanted to? When was the last time you looked in the mirror and said, I'm building something new. I'm becoming someone better. That's what it means to invest in yourself. It's not selfish. It's survival. Because the moment you start focusing on your growth, your mind, your health, your discipline, your peace, everything else begins to shift. You start walking differently, talking differently, thinking differently. People start noticing something's changed. They'll ask what happened, and you'll smile because you finally stopped waiting for permission. The world rewards clarity. It rewards people who decide, who refuse to drift any longer. Maybe this is your moment. Maybe this message didn't find you by accident. Maybe life is whispering, it's time. Because when you focus on yourself, everything begins to align. The world changes because you changed first. There comes a moment when the fog finally lifts, when the noise in your mind begins to fade, and for the first time in a long time, you see clearly, because that's what rebirth really is. It's not about starting from zero. It's not about erasing your past. It's about seeing what's always been there, through new eyes. You start noticing how much energy you've been wasting. Trying to please, trying to prove, trying to be enough. You start realizing that, somewhere along the way, you stopped living for your purpose, and started living for approval. But the truth is, focus isn't something you find, it's something you reclaim. You stop chasing every noise that calls your name. You stop fighting battles that were never yours to begin with. You stop explaining yourself to people who were never listening. And in that silence, your focus returns, your clarity sharpens, your energy becomes your own again. You realize every ounce of energy you poured into proving your worth was energy that could have built your dreams, and maybe that's what life was trying to teach you all along. Stop proving, start building. Because the truth is, you were never behind. You were just distracted. Every moment you spent doubting yourself was a moment stolen from your future. Every day you delayed your growth was another day your potential waited in silence. But today, that ends. Because focus isn't about forcing discipline. It's about remembering what matters. It's about cutting through the noise and saying, I will no longer waste my power on things that drain me. You begin rebuilding, not from what you lost, but from what you learned. You stop trying to get back what broke you, and instead, you start becoming who you were always meant to be. And yes, it hurts at first. Letting go always does. But pain is the signal that you're finally moving. It's life's way of saying, you're alive again. This is your rebirth. Your moment of clarity. Your declaration to the universe. I'm done being distracted. I'm done being small. I'm done forgetting who I am. Because the world doesn't change when you wish for it. It changes when you focus for it. So breathe, center yourself, remember why you started, and then look forward. Because this isn't the end of who you were. It's the beginning of who you're meant to be. You're not just living, you're becoming. There comes a moment when silence feels heavier than noise. When you realize the only thing standing between who you are and who you could be is you. You felt it, that pull in your chest, that quiet whisper that says you were meant for more. You've ignored it before. You've buried it under excuses, comfort, and fear. But today, that whisper isn't quiet anymore, because no matter how far you've fallen, no matter how long you've waited, there comes a day when the excuses stop working. And this is that day, because deep down, if not now, when? The call to rise doesn't come from applause. It doesn't come from validation. It comes from the silence when you finally say to yourself, I refuse to stay the same. You see, rising isn't about perfection. It's about direction. It's not about having all the answers. It's about choosing to move anyway, because life won't wait for you to be ready. The world won't stop spinning while you plan your next move and your dreams. They're not patient. They're starving for your action. You've been through pain. Good. You've faced doubt. Perfect. You've been overlooked, underestimated, ignored. Even better. Because that's the fire that builds warriors. That's the pressure that shapes diamonds. You can't rise without resistance. You can't grow without struggle. And you can't transform without tearing down the parts of you that were built to keep you small. So here's the truth. Most people never face the moment you decide to rise. Everything that kept you comfortable will start to fight back your fears. Your habits, your old self, they'll whisper, stay where you are. It's safer here. But you already know the cost of safety. It's your potential. It's your peace. It's your future. I know you're tired. I know part of you wonders if it's even worth it anymore. But listen, that exhaustion you feel, it's not from failing. It's from fighting battles that were never yours to begin with. So stop waiting for the perfect moments. Stop waiting for permission. Rise now in the doubt, in the fear, in the chaos. Because that's where champions are made, not in comfort, but in conflict. And maybe this is the reason this video found you today. To remind you that the fire inside you was never gone, just waiting for courage, waiting for a decision, waiting for you. So take this moment, stand taller, breathe deeper, look forward and say it. This is my time. This is my rise. Because the call to rise isn't just a whisper anymore. It's a roar. And the world needs to see what happens when you finally rise. Rise because your story isn't over. It's just beginning. You know, I've learned something about success. It's not what most people think it is. It isn't just about what you achieve. It's about what you become while you're achieving it. Because trophies fade, money gets spent, titles are forgotten. But who you become in the process, that's what remains. There's a legacy that comes from becoming, not the legacy of wealth or recognition or applause, but the legacy of impact, of living in such a way that your growth becomes a light for someone else's darkness. Most people never think about that. They chase status, comfort, approval, and forget that every decision they make is writing the story of who they are. One day, when the noise fades and the spotlight dims, what's left isn't what they had, but who they were. You're building that story right now in how you wake up, how you respond when life doesn't go your way, in the moments no one sees. Because legacy isn't built in grand gestures. It's built in quiet consistency. In the small, deliberate acts that whisper, I will keep going. I will keep growing. You've walked through storms. You've faced walls. You've lost things you thought you couldn't live without. And maybe no one saw your struggle, but that doesn't mean it didn't matter, because you're still here. And that means something. It means you didn't give up. It means you've already become more than you were before. Every scar has a story. Every failure carries wisdom. Every season of pain carved depth into your character. And that depth, that quiet, unshakable strength, is what separates those who live comfortably from those who live completely. You're not just rebuilding a life. You're redefining what it means to be alive. Because when you start focusing on yourself, not selfishly, but intentionally, you become the kind of person others look to and say, because of them, I didn't give up. That's legacy. That's becoming. It's not about proving them wrong anymore. It's about proving yourself, right? And one day when you look back, you'll realize every difficult season, every delayed dream, every lonely night wasn't wasted. It was preparation. It was life molding you into someone strong enough to carry the weight of your own potential. That's what becoming is. The quiet transformation of self, the rebirth of meaning, the realization that the most valuable thing you could ever build is you. Stop chasing validation. Stop measuring your worth by applause, because one day all that fades. But the legacy of who you become, that's eternal. You've already answered the call to rise. Now live like it, walk with intention, lead with conviction, love with depth. Because your greatest achievement won't be what you own or what you win. It'll be the person you become, and the lives you touch because you dared to change. Because that journey itself is proof that you're becoming everything you were meant to be, and maybe, just maybe, that's what success was always meant to be. You've dreamed it, you've seen it, you've felt it, but dreams alone don't build destinies. Discipline does. The question is, will you? Because most people love the idea of success, but they hate the process that creates it. They crave the results, but avoid the repetition. Motivation fades, excitement dies, but discipline endures. It's the flame that keeps burning long after the fireworks fade. It's what's left when the hype dies. And all that remains is you and the work. You say you want change. You say you want greatness. But will you show up when no one claps? Will you move when no one's watching? Will you keep going when it's no longer exciting, just exhausting? Because that's where most people fall apart. Because destiny doesn't ask if you're ready. It asks if you're consistent. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you could become. Every step across that bridge builds your future. It's not about perfection. It's about persistence. The discipline to rise one more time. The discipline to believe one more day. The discipline to act, even when doubt whispers louder than faith. You see, discipline isn't punishment. It's preparation. It's proof that you respect your potential enough to show up for it daily, with or without applause. Think of every great who came before you. They didn't wait to feel ready. They built readiness through routine. They made their habits stronger than their moods. And when the world called them obsessed, they called it destiny. Because one day, all those small, unseen efforts, the early mornings, the lonely nights, the sacrifices nobody applauded, they compound, they transform, they build something unshakable. They build you. And I get it. You're tired. You've tried before. You've failed before. But you're still here. That means there's something inside you that refuses to die quietly. That's not weakness. That's proof of destiny. And destiny never whispers to the timid. So lean into the grind. Let the struggle shape you. Let the repetition forge you. Because discipline doesn't break you. It builds you. It turns chaos into clarity, pain into power, effort into evolution. When you start moving with discipline, the world begins to move differently around you. Doors open. Momentum builds. Opportunities appear, not by chance, but by alignment. Because when your actions finally match your purpose, the universe takes notice. It's not magic, it's mathematics. Consistency compounds, and if you stay long enough, you'll see it, the invisible become inevitable. So if you really want to know what builds destiny, it's not talent, it's not luck, it's not timing. It's the simple, quiet, daily decision. I will do it anyway, even when it's boring, even when it hurts, even when nobody sees. You don't need more motivation. You need a system. You don't need hype. You need habits. You don't need a spark. You need structure. Because destiny doesn't belong to the gifted. It belongs to the consistent, the ones who keep going when the rest stop, to the ones who grind when no one believes. And when consistency becomes your identity, destiny has no choice but to follow. Because the world doesn't reward intensity, it rewards endurance. It rewards the ones who didn't give up when everything in them screamed to quit. And one day, when the lights come on, when the applause finally arrives, when the world calls it luck, you'll know the truth. It wasn't luck, it wasn't magic, it was discipline. Discipline built your habits. Your habits built your strength, and your strength built your destiny. So keep showing up, keep building, keep becoming, because your destiny isn't waiting for permission. It's waiting for your discipline. You know, everyone wants purpose, everyone wants meaning, everyone wants to matter. But what no one tells you is that purpose comes with a price, a heavy one. Everyone wants impact, but no one wants the silence that comes before it. That silence. That's where purpose starts whispering. Purpose looks beautiful from the outside, but on the inside, it's lonely, it's brutal, it's expensive. They'll show you the highlight reels, the success stories, the made it moments, but they won't show you the nights they questioned everything. They won't show you the war that happens behind closed doors. Every dream demands a down payment, and it's paid in sacrifice. You'll lose friends, you'll lose comfort, you'll lose versions of yourself that used to keep you safe, but that's the price of becoming who you're meant to be. Purpose isn't found in the spotlight. It's found in the shadows. When no one's watching, when no one's clapping, when the only person who believes in you is the one staring back in the mirror. And if you can keep moving there, you're already ahead of 99% of the world. You see, purpose doesn't pat you on the back. It tests you. It tears you open. It breaks your pride. It humbles your ego. Because you can't carry greatness with untested hands. You have to bleed for it. You whispered to yourself, I can't do this anymore. But somehow, you did. That wasn't weakness. That was purpose pulling you forward. Even when you thought you were breaking, you were being built. You were being refined for something greater, for something eternal. Purpose isn't gentle. It's refining. It burns away what doesn't belong. It strips you clean until only the truth remains. Every distraction, every excuse, every comfort you used to hide behind gone, because what's left after the fire is who you were meant to be. You'll learn that peace doesn't come from avoiding pain. It comes from walking through it, because pain shapes clarity, and clarity builds purpose. You don't find peace when the pain stops. You find it when you stop running. Because purpose has a price, but it also has a payoff. It's meaning, it's mastery. It's knowing that everything you lost was leading you to everything you were born to become. You won't regret the price you paid. You'll only regret the moments you almost quit. And one day, you'll look back at every scar, every sleepless night, and you'll whisper to yourself, it all meant something, every bit of it. Because in the end, purpose doesn't just change your life, it changes you. You've given so much already: time, energy, moments stolen from comfort, pieces of yourself that no one will ever see. You've walked through fire. You've stood in silence. You've stared at the walls of doubt. You've fought fatigue. You've fought distraction. You've paid the price again and again. And yet, here you are, still standing, still breathing, still capable of more than you ever imagined. But this is where most people stop. Not because they're weak, but because they never understood the secret. The truth that most will never learn. Purpose isn't a finish line. It isn't a single victory. It isn't applause or recognition. Purpose is the investment that never stops paying you back. It's the silent currency of your life. It's what you do when no one is watching. It's what you build in the shadows, knowing one day it will shape the world you live in. When you finally strip away every distraction, every excuse, every reason to delay, you're left with one question staring at you like a mirror. What will you do with what you've become? Because everything you endured, every storm, every scar, every sleepless night, wasn't punishment, it was preparation. It was the fire refining you, the weight shaping you, the silence teaching you. And now, the only person you need to impress is yourself. You are standing at the threshold, ready to move, ready to rise, ready to build the life you've been waiting for. Imagine that life for a moment. The clarity, the control, the quiet power of knowing you are the architect of your own destiny. The real investment never shouts. It doesn't demand likes. It doesn't need approval. It is quiet, subtle, invisible, powerful. It's the early mornings when you rise while the world sleeps. It's the nights spent writing, reading, learning, training, long after the distractions are gone, the emails ignored, the social media silence, the world moving on without noticing a single thing. That's proof. True growth doesn't announce itself, it prepares itself. It builds itself quietly, relentlessly, one step at a time, until one day, when the world finally looks up, they see someone completely transformed. Your future isn't built in one giant leap. It isn't a sudden miracle. It silent deposits you make every day, a choice to focus when it's easier to give up, a choice to act when no one else believes in you, a choice to discipline yourself when temptation calls. Every day you choose discipline over distraction. You are planting seeds. Every time you say no to comfort, you water those seeds with courage and persistence. And every quiet step forward is like planting a seed that will one day grow into a forest of possibilities, a life you can look back on and say, I made this happen. I built it with my own hands, quietly, relentlessly. One day, when the noise fades, and the world finally turns its head to notice, they'll say, you came out of nowhere. But you'll know the truth. You didn't come out of nowhere. You came from discipline. Out of focus, out of purpose. You came from the shadows. You built yourself quietly, brick by unseen brick, every lonely hour, every sacrifice, every choice to push forward when the world was silent. It wasn't invisible, it was your foundation. The proof that you never stopped, the proof that you invested in the most important thing in your life, yourself. So before you go, take a moment, breathe. Reflect. You don't need the world to notice your growth. You just need to keep building it. And if you're ready to keep building quietly, relentlessly, without distraction, then take your next step. Watch. 6 quiet ways to build yourself without anyone noticing. It's your next investment, your next proof of purpose, your next step toward the life you've been silently shaping all along.